Hello and welcome to the new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the new Pokemon like Graveyard here, I guess, plus of course Houndstone. Houndstone is a ghost type Pokemon that's going to have access to Lick as well as the move Psychic Fangs, which is actually really good for it, as well as Shadow Ball, but also Dig. And this Pokemon, it really surprised me. This went so much better than I expected, like literally so much better. You're going to see it here as well. We're going to have a lot of games here as well coming up, and this Pokemon worked out so well, and I'm still like, I tried to tank a little bit before, so I don't have as many Q times. I was like already up at like close to 2,900 again. Videos towards the teams most likely going to come around then when the next Great League season coming back basically. But this team here actually worked out so much better than I expected, and honestly, it was wild. Like, this is the thing as well. You always know, like, lick damage, because you have, like, the Lickitung around, you have, like, your Snorlax around, and you always see, like, yeah, it's kind of low damage, it's not really that great. But you've never really encountered lick damage from a Pokemon that is actually having stab on it. And this is a cool thing here about this Pokemon, which you're going to see quite often, and shows how strong this actually can be. Here, by the way, I had to predict that the opponent goes for a bait. Didn't work out, I'm going to lose. Sadly, this team was very weak against Greninja, which only I encountered once, which of course was their first battle here, so that's great. But yeah, still, this team worked out super well, which you're going to see as well. I went way positive with this one. I think I only lost 2 times. Actually, I lost 3 times, but I actually only lost 2 times. You're going to see what I mean with that. If you follow me on Twitter, you must have seen it already. But let's take a look at the next game here. We're going to encounter a Lantern in the lead. This is going to be horrible for our lead because we are seeing that they're running Water Gun. So we decide to swap out into our Sableye, which is basically our, guess here, try to get out the Lickitung, because you have no chance against Lickitung with our Houndstone there. So what we can do here is we can just use a shield against the opponents, Sableye forcing a shield, and this is a cool thing as well about Sableye. The third foul play takes only 5 fast moves, so if you're like 1 fast move in disadvantage, which we are here basically, we are still going to be able to basically tie here, which is really nice for me. The opponent didn't go for a charge move, but still, we are now getting out of this matchup with a shield advantage instead of like equal shields, which is amazing for me. So I can now decide to swap out immediately into my Houndstone, and we see that the opponent is staying in for a little bit. Here we see already that we got the opponent fairly low with our lick damage, putting them into the range basically for a Shadow Ball. They're running the Kofag Regus in the back, and Houndstone is taking charge here, going for the Shadow Ball, getting the first knockout, and the opponent had already enough as they're going to decide to forfeit. Let's take a look at the next opponent. Great Lead Force, coming against the Registeel's Amazing Force. We're gonna see the Medicham coming in. I decided to still go for the Sableye just because we're going to charge up a little bit faster, as well as we're going to be protected for a potential Psychic here thanks to the Dark typing. So this matchup is still a little bit better for me, but I can still at least realign my Pokemon, which is going to be nice. Also, Sableye is worse against Carbing itself, so that's why I also kind of want to get rid of this Pokemon here. But as you're going to see, the opponent decides to swap back into their Carbing. I can still go for a return, and this is actually kind of important because this puts the opponent into range for just 1 Earthquake. So we will see what they're going to have in the back, and they're running a Degen team here with the Shadow Victory Bell, which is going to be okay for us. We can go for the charge move here, getting the attack drop onto them, and Houndstone can still go for the Psychic Fangs fairly fast here with the Lick, as we will be able to get the knockout against the opponent's Lickitung, and now it's just a Carbing against the Houndstone as well as the Steelix, and the opponent decides to forfeit. So let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to encounter Steelix against Deoxys. Pretty neutral lead, but we have 2 good answers in the back, so we decide to swap out immediately. I wanted to swap out actually directly, like without the extra fast move there, but the game had some issues today, which you're going to see later on as well in a very awkward way here. But let's take a look at this matchup. We're going to encounter the Vigoroth, where we can still let the Bulldoze go through. It's going to do some decent damage, but we can just go ahead and go for a foul play, and kind of similar to the matchup against the Sableye prior, we're going to still be able to get to another one afterwards, which the opponent didn't expect that fast, so we can now get another shield from them, getting out of here with a double shield advantage in this scenario, which is amazing for me, as I can just move on, go into my Steelix, use a shield onto the Bulldoze, which would do a ton of damage. So now we are still 1 shield up. I tried to go for the charge move here, but I over-tapped, I guess, a little bit, which didn't actually matter because I can still just go for a farm down now, as the Body Slam didn't really do too much. I can swap out, and in comes here the Deoxys. I decided to use a shield here, and this was the biggest mistake of this game, because if I knew that they had a Sableye in the back, I would have been able to just use my shield then, I would have still been able to basically farm down the opponent there, and I would have still got to a charge move there, get the knockout against the Sableye and win the game. But of course, I couldn't know this. I decided to shield up the Psycho Boost, which in hindsight was a mistake. I would have got to the Shadow Ball in time, I would have got the knockout against the Sableye, and most I would have get farmed down by the opponent's Deoxys, but I was so close to the charge move there as well with my Steelix. I think I would have been fine, so kinda sad. It would have been a winnable game if I played it differently, but of course you never know what the opponent is running in the back. So here we're going to encounter the Gligar. Gligar going to be okay for us, as we can just go for 2 charge moves as the opponent going to let this move go through. I'm still going to be forced to go into my Steelix here, and I'm going to use a shield as the opponent going to have a dig here, which is going to do super effective damage. In comes most likely the same lead as they already had here, which is going to be the Sandslash, which is a horrible matchup for us. This is exactly what I don't want to face. This was actually the first game that I encountered, and this was basically the hardest wall for this team, as both the lead as well as my Pokemon in the back going to struggle against the alone Sandslash. But still, we're going to be able to let this move go through with our Houndstone as the opponent is debuffed. It's going to be just the Ice Punch, and we're gonna see in the back the Medicham, allowing us to go for the Psychic Fang spam, and the opponent used a shield immediately, and look at the damage of Lick. This is exactly what I mean. Like, honestly, this Pokemon is kinda insane. Like, I'm not going to say, like, oh yeah, please all build a Houndstone, this Pokemon is literally top tier meta. No, I don't say this, but this Pokemon is really usable, as you can see here already. Stab Lick is no joke. Like, you barely see it because usually you see, like, Hex or Shadow Claw only on, like, Ghost-type Pokemon. But honestly, Stab Lick is so cool, especially after the debuffs with these Psychic Fangs. It was a ton of fun to play this team, and it was a ton of fun to play this Pokemon. Next opponent, we're going to see a Steelix in the lead. I decided to stay in for a little bit here, and I should be able to win most CMP ties against, like, especially normal Steelix, because I have a Shadow variant, which I don't mean with, oh, I have the more attack, that doesn't matter for CMP, but I have the worst IV spread here, basically, because it's Shadow, and I cannot decide the IV spread. So here, I get basically the advantage in the beginning, but I was still shielding up the Breaking Swipe, which is not really ideal. I decided to swap out as the opponent decides to still stay in here, which allows me to go for a charge move. Foul play, gonna put them into the deep yellow health as we're going to encounter the Bastion in the back. This is not ideal for me, as Bastion is now going to go up against my Sableye where we are debuffed, which is now showing here as well how little damage we do. I cannot swap out in time yet, but I can now try to swap out afterwards, which is actually going to work out fairly well, as we're going to use a shield here on the Shadow Ball, the Flamethrower from the opponent, of course. Shadow Ball Bastion, that's going to be amazing. But at least you're going to get the Shadow Bastion soon. If you didn't see the video about this, there is a video earlier where I talk a little bit about it. But in general, there were a lot of really cool new Shadow Pokemon announced coming up in a week. So definitely check out that video earlier. But also, if you enjoy this video so far, feel free to leave a like, as you're going to see a lot of cool content here still with Houndstone. Let's take a look at this one. We're going to see that the opponent is deciding to stay in here. And if they had already the Bastion and the Steelix, it's very likely that they have the Medicham in the back, and this was exactly what's happening here. I decided to stall a Shadow Ball because we were debuffed, and I feel like I can just one-shot them. The opponent decides to go for the Power Punch, and let's see if I can one-shot them without the debuff. Let's see, Houndstone, boom, goodbye there, and we can just go for the full farm down, and again, we will be able to knock them out, and yeah. Again, if you enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like. It really helps out to spread the video. Let's see the next opponent going to have the Azumarill in the lead. Horrible lead for us, horrible for our entire team, because also our Sableye kind of struggles against it. And honestly, I should throw a little bit earlier here. I should just went for one fast move and then go for the return, because here, as you were seeing, I was wasting a little bit of energy. I think I wasted around 4 energy, which is actually a little bit annoying, basically half of a Shadow Claw, so not really ideal. So I should went for the move a little bit earlier, and my opponent is going to predict everything here, as they decide to let this next move go through. Could have been a return, but they decide to let the next move go through here as well, which is very smart by them, as we can go for the full farm down, but the opponent still tries to go for a charge move, which works out well for them, knocking me out, but at least I can go for 2 more Dragon Tails with my Steelix, but they're going to run the Registeel in the back. My only play is to try to catch a move here, as it seems like it worked out so well, right? It actually worked out. For whatever reason, I went for the Focus Blast there, seeing my Pokemon already. But sadly, they're gonna still get to another move in time, which is going to be the Zap Cannon, and I cannot go for my Shadow Ball, which would have been kinda needed. And now it's just a guessing game. I decided to go for the safe play and basically just go for the Breaking Swipe, but it wasn't as safe as the opponent decides to just sacrifice their Registeel. So yeah, this is going to be it for this game. I'm not even going to throw my Earthquake here, and we can move on into the next one. A little bit of a tough one, but we can take a look at the next opponent. This is exactly where we want to face the Umbreon, so I'm very happy about this. I can go for the Breaking Swipe immediately, so they don't do as much damage with their Foul Play. But turns out, my opponent decides to not go for Foul Play. They're gonna go for Dark Pulse here, which is a smart strategy. I feel like this is maybe even a better play for Umbreon in the current meta. But we can now go ahead and go for the Breaking Swipe. Getting the attack drop onto the opponent is of course very nice, but let's take a look here. The opponent swaps into the Azumarill, and I decide to go into my Houndstone, as we're going to have a fairly decent matchup for me here. I will be able to just take an Ice Beam or Play Rough or Hydro Pump with my Houndstone, but I can now go for the Shadow Ball, which is going to be amazing. This will allow me to get the shield from the opponent, and the opponent decides to go for the next charge move in time. I didn't really keep track with the energy of the opponent here, but I can still try to go for a charge move and abate a potential Shadow Ball here with the Psychic Fangs, which works out so well, as we're gonna get the shield from the opponent and they swap out into the Umbreon, allowing me to now go into my Steelix afterwards again. I can go for the Breaking Swipe, and I should be able to farm down afterwards as well, which would be so amazing for me. Let's see what they're going to do here. We're going to be able to just let this move go through. It's going to be a Dark Pulse, and I will go for the full farm down here before they can even go for a charge move, allowing me now to swap out into my Sableye, which is gonna get up against a Tropius. So I go for one charge move first here, which is going to be okay, so they do less damage against my Sableye potentially. And as you're going to see, they swap out into the Azumarill, which should be fine. They're going to go for a charge move first. I need to overfarm a little bit anyway, as the Foul Play doesn't knock them out from this range. So I'm going to go for one more fast move. And so far, so good. We're going to be able to get the Foul Play off. I can go for the charge move next as well against the Tropius. We still need another Foul Play afterwards, but we should be kind of fine. Because we still have so much health left, we are going to be in a great position. Now we have already the Foul Play stored. I survived this move. This game is won. I click on my Foul Play, and the game gives the opponent the charge move priority. It's not even close, by the way, if you didn't know. Like, the charge move priority, Tropius is an insanely bulky Pokemon. Sableye is not really that bulky. Like, you win the charge move priority no matter which I really have. And so the game kind of screwed me over there. This should have been a win for sure if the game would have worked, but we can now move on into the final game of today's video. We're going to encounter a Lickitung against us. We can go for a return here, which is going to do some decent damage if it lands, but actually doesn't land. So the opponent decides to just basically secure the realignment here, which they can do. I'm totally fine with this. I get the shield advantage, is basically all I kind of want at this point, as I can also get some damage onto the opponent with another return of this Sableye. Doing a ton of damage here. I try to go for another charge move, which does not work out, but they're gonna go for the Power Whip here, which allows us to swap back into our Steelix. With the shield advantage, we can just go for a Breaking Swipe and decide to drop a little bit of the opponent's attack. Maybe I should have played a little bit differently, because they're still gonna get to a Power Whip here, which is not ideal. So they're gonna do some decent damage against me as well, but I can still get some extra farm. And now it's just going to go down between Houndstone, the opponent's Bastion, and also the opponent's Deoxys. Let's see if we can still deal with this. Here was so sad that I didn't run Dig on this Pokemon. I could have also went for Dig over the Shadow Ball, which maybe is the play to go as well, but I decided to go for the Shadow Ball instead, but Dig would have been so good in this scenario. But still, I can just go ahead and go for the bait here, which is gonna get the shield from the opponent, allowing me now to use a shield as well, trying to go for a Shadow Ball afterwards, but I'm not going to be sure if it's going to be working out against the Deoxys. No, they can still go for the charge move, and like this game is sadly over, as the opponent can knock me out, and yeah, like literally, we are in such a bad spot here. They do super effective damage off counter, they can still go for a charge move. For whatever reason, a Thunderbolt, which does not make sense at all, but I can still go for the Earthquake, knocking them out, and still going to be the Bastion in the back with a few HP left. Can we still go for the Dragon Tail? Or also the Breaking Swipe, of course. We can still reach it in time, and we don't get the knockout, but one more Dragon Tail is all it takes, and this is going to be it for today's video. Honestly, this Pokemon itself was so much fun to play. It was way better than I expected, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and check out the videos on the screen. See you then, bye bye.